love to talk about money, assets, portfolios, net worth, but they rarely ask the real question, what's your mind worth? Because I've learned that every fortune, every revolution, every impossible dream, it all begins in that 6-inch space between your ears.
They say old habits die hard, but I was never interested in old habits. I wanted to rewrite the very code I live by. Most people think your mind is a prison, a place you're locked into by childhood, by circumstance, by fear. But I discovered something else. Your mind is a workshop, a forge, a lab where tomorrow is built. This is Billionaire's Take. Tonight, Rewired, how I became the architect of my own mind.
There's a myth that greatness is genetic, something you're born with, like a hidden signature inside your cells. But the world's greatest builders, inventors, and visionaries, they rewrote the rules. They stared at the walls inside their own heads and asked, what if I could change the blueprint?
I remember the moment I realized my mind was full of broken circuits. I was repeating patterns, chasing the same ideas, making the same mistakes, losing the same battles. It was like living in a mansion where every door led back to the same room. But then I met someone who shattered the walls for me.
That was my mentor. Not a billionaire in dollars, but a billionaire in resilience. He once told me, if you don't program your mind, someone else will. That line cut through me. For years, I let the world upload its fears, its limits, its distractions into my brain. But when I started deleting those old files, the architecture changed. Suddenly, new doors opened where there were only walls.
It's easy to worship intelligence, but what I learned is far rarer. Flexibility, the ability to break your own rhythm, to walk away from a thought that has served you for years and ask, what if I'm wrong? That's the birth of all reinvention.
You want to see a living example? Let's talk about Sara Blakely. She started Spanx with $5,000 and zero experience in fashion. Her friends said, "You're crazy." But she made a habit of what she called opposite thinking. Whenever she faced a wall, she'd ask, what if I just do the opposite of what everyone expects? That rewired her brain. When banks rejected her, she called again and again, refusing to code rejection as failure. Now, she's a billionaire. But the real wealth? She rebuilt the software of her own mind, line by line.
That story changed how I saw my own setbacks. I used to flinch at failure, close in, go silent. But watching Sara, seeing how she leaned into discomfort, rewrote the meaning of no, I started to reprogram the way I handled pain. Instead of seeing a locked door, I learned to see a challenge. Instead of I can't, I heard, not yet.
People love to quote neuroscience. The brain is plastic. It can change. But few are willing to tear down their old circuitry. Rewiring is violent. It means questioning every comfort. It means sitting alone in the dark and asking yourself, what do I believe? And why do I believe it? It means sacrificing your old identity to become someone new.
Most people want new results, but they're too attached to their old thinking. You can't build a skyscraper on the foundation of a cottage. I had to demolish the architecture inside. Meditation, journaling, brutal self-reflection, tools, not trends. I treated my mind like a gym. Repetition, pain, growth. Every rep built new muscle. Every doubt, a doorway.
I remember the day I truly rewired. It wasn't in some meditation retreat. It was the morning after I lost everything in a failed deal. Friends gone, respect vanished, phone silent. The world called me reckless. But I realized I could choose the story. Either I was a failure or I was free. I rewrote the narrative. Not I lost, but now I get to rebuild brick by brick my way. That was the pivot. The day I took back the architect's pen.
The greatest risk is never losing money. It's refusing to risk your own beliefs. I had to ask, am I the same person today as I was a year ago? If the answer was yes, I knew I hadn't grown. Growth is friction. Evolution is destruction and rebuilding. I learned to celebrate the pain because every discomfort was proof the rewiring was working.
What's wild is the ultra-wealthy are obsessed with this. Not with being right, but with being willing to be wrong. They hire coaches, therapists, rivals. They build think tanks of contrarians, people who challenge every assumption. It's not ego, it's architecture. A willingness to tear down the top floor, even if it means living in rubble for a while.
I've sat with billionaires who meditate before every meeting, not to relax, but to reset, to clear out yesterday's victories and failures, so today can be designed anew. That's the secret. They never let the blueprint settle. Every day a renovation.
Sometimes people ask, how do you see opportunities others miss? The answer is, I rewired my mind to look where nobody else dares. When the world sees chaos, I see a canvas. When the world clings to certainty, I search for questions.
You are not the prisoner of your thoughts. You are their sculptor. You can break old chains and solder new connections. Every fear is just a wire waiting to be rerouted. Every doubt is a blueprint for a stronger structure.
When you become the architect, life transforms. You stop waiting for miracles and start engineering them. You stop fearing storms and start building windmills.
It doesn't matter where you start. It matters whether you believe the architecture can change. Because the greatest fortunes, they're not built in banks. They're built, rebuilt, and rebuilt again in the mind.
So the next time you feel trapped by your thinking, remember, the walls in your mind were built by you, and you can tear them down. You are not the prisoner of your mind. You are its architect.
And this is Billionaire's Take.